probably because you authorized it. But we can't do anything about it. But I have their called the phone number of the company, which was not T-Mobile, and I went through the choices, and it said if you want to refute this, you have to go to this place, which I chose, and it offered me the ability to cancel the purchase, which I chose. And then as soon as I chose cancel, it said, wouldn't you like this offer anyway if we reduced the price 25%? I said, no. How about 50%? I said, no. And they said, well, now you're going to lose your chance to get the iPad. So now instead of guaranteeing me the iPad, which they had in inventory for me, they had 2 of them left. And now it was about getting a chance to win an iPad. And I said no, and I canceled that charge, and then I canceled the other charge, and now I'm happy.
So you were able to go through their system and cancel your purchase. And the way they had presented it to you, you were getting it for free, but what were you having to pay for?
I had to pay $4.95 for postage and then handling, but it didn't ever say what the handling was.
Oh, okay.
And Paul, have you checked with your credit card company?
I talked to them, and I also called.
That's how you dispute a charge, is with your credit card company.
No, that's who told me that I had to. They couldn't help me.
Had to wait till it came through.
I think maybe you said it's a very complicated process or something like that, but you can call the company, and here's the phone number, and that's what I did.
It's not complicated to dispute a charge.
Well, good morning. Give me a moment. I just want to say I pressed the streaming button, and we are starting the San Carlos Computer Club. I'm Scott Stimson, your internal guest host, holding these meetings once again on Tuesdays at 10. And we've been talking about Paul's, I guess, semi-spammer or scammers. They kind of did a bait and switch with you, tried to get you to sign up for something offering you an iPad, and you were having problems because there was actually charges attached to the free iPad, supposedly free iPad.
Well, I think the credit card company was saying that because I agreed to everything in the offer unwittingly.
Yes.
My best choice was to call the company. Anyway, it worked.
Is that you were able to legitimately stop this purchase?
In the process of canceling in reduction in price and stuff like that. So it was pretty aggressive marketing, but it was not impossible to get out of it.
That's the timeshare. When you go to a timeshare presentation, they always have the first price, and then if you say no to that, there's another one, and you finally get down to a travel club. Yeah, keep going.
One of my first experiences in San Carlos was with my buddy that traveled here with on when I stayed, and we were doing a timeshare thing for a free breakfast. And at one point, the guy said, "Well, what price would get you in?" My buddy just looked at it and he said, "Are you going to give it to us for free?"
We can afford free.
Yeah, that's why we're here for breakfast.
And then they said, okay, well, you can have it for free, but you can never quit. And we're going to charge you $10,000 a year service fees.
Yeah, service, homeowners, association fees, whatever it might be. I know my dad's dealt with some timeshares where he couldn't even give it away. They're like, no, you're still responsible for these fees.
It's like a gym club.
Right. once you're in. Well, good morning, everybody. I just stuck the link to our document into the chat if you haven't had a chance to look at it. Here's some of the news stories from the last week. Some are a little older than that. I might have left them here from the last document, but there's been a lot of interesting stuff going on this week. And at the top of the hour, I just want to say that on our plan to return to in-person meetings at some point that I continually have been putting off, I've recently committed to running the bed and breakfast in Alaska this summer. And so I'm looking at about a 9-week timetable before I head back to Alaska. So I have made the executive decision to not even try and go to until I get back from Alaska. And so we will continue to do virtual meetings, attempt to do virtual meetings while I'm in Alaska. But I will be there from the middle of May until the beginning of September. So we'll see what happens. It's right now that's the plan. So I'm no longer even considering trying to do an in-person meeting before I come back. It's just I don't want it on my plate of things to worry about.
If we all go to Alaska, can we meet with you there?
Only outside with masks, social distanced.
Anti-social distancing.
That's right.
Even though all of Mexico is now in green and they're talking about relaxing mask requirements.
We're ready for that, aren't we? Yeah, I'm just not ready to pick things up and try and sort them out. Yeah. I was talking with Richard, and the two of us were going through the logistics of what I wanted to try and do in person and online. And it's like, God, why even do this? You're going to leave in just a few weeks. You fall down, pick up, and go to Alaska. Just wait till you get back. And morning, Mom.
Well, could some of us meet you at Tequila's and just have breakfast with you sometime?
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe there in the patio.
Out there on the patio, that's right. It doesn't have to be Computer Club. Are you buying, Paul? Because I'm in.
Steaks there.
Well, what else we got going on? Did you guys check out the deep fake of Zelensky? You see that in the news? The info wars have begun. The Russians have released a deep fake video on Ukrainian TV that is him telling the Ukrainians to put down their arms, that they're going to surrender to Russia.
Oh.
I just found out about this morning. If you look at the video, it's a bit head bobby, and I had to look at some of his presentations against the deep fake video to recognize in the deep fake he's got a much more extended neck. So he looks a bit like a bobblehead. Mm-hmm. And people that are more experts than I would ever hope to be have already deconstructed it using software and visual clues and deemed it a fake before it had a chance to even be taken seriously. But it did go out on on a Ukraine TV website because hackers got inside their website and left it there. And it went out on social media, and so they've been an example of the kinds of warfare that are being imposed now. This media warfare. I suspect we're going to see better deep fake videos coming soon. You guys remember when we talked about deep fakes? There was the Tom Cruise deep fakes that were going around, having him do just miscellaneous goofy stuff and saying miscellaneous goofy stuff. And that was the fear then, was that this technology is going to be able to make anybody say anything. And it makes all of us have to question everything that we see and hear, because
it will only get better.
Yeah. I mean, from the perspective of looking better, sounding better, and looking more authentic when it's not, because there's nothing better about it being harder to tell whether it's a legitimate video or not. You know,
if
this
they can
kind
make
of
cat images talk convincingly, you know, they can do anything now.
That's right. They've actually incorporated some of this deep fake technology into the things they're doing for movies like Star Wars, where they're taking a character like Luke Skywalker and they have Mark Hamill playing that character. Mark's in his 60s, doesn't look anything like the character he's trying to play, the young version of himself. But they're using this kind of technology and de-aging technology made famous with Marvel to bring his character back to the screen. And frequently before, when we saw that kind of thing happen in the Star, I'm sorry if I bring things back to Star Wars all the time. It's just my true passion. But in movies like Rogue One, where they were going to Rogue One, they brought back what's his name? Peter Cushing. He died, but he had some crucial cutscenes in that movie that drove the plot, and they decided to bring Peter Cushing back. They de-aged Princess Leia and used her daughter, Carrie Fisher's daughter as a stand-in for her, and then superimposed her face. And these were miraculous technologies, cost lots of money, and were criticized for being not perfect and still used. And now we're moving into this area where you can make the president say anything. And they're using it to in their media war, their propaganda war in the Ukraine. Fortunately, everyone seems to be. We've all become educated on it, and even more so younger people and people that have grown up with this technology.
We'll have to make decisions on who we want to replace our faces during these meetings.
Right. Or, you know, what's going to be interesting, Paul, is when we're all carrying around the metaphoric rose-colored glasses. We've got the bionic contact.
The scene was the same as his background, but then somebody figured out that it was a green screen that he was holding up, and they were projecting the background onto it.
Absolutely. I have seen some stealth technologies, though, that are quite literally cameras and combined cameras and screens that allow you to take in the video on one side of an object and project it on the other side of the object, so it that 1-to-1 ratio makes it disappear in your vision. All right, Cheryl, fake, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is what all that advanced Apple technology has come up with.
Yeah, it might be a fake, but I don't think it's very deep.
So this has to be on an Apple device. I mean, I've seen other people have filters, and I don't know how to do that at all. Oh, a little octopus, I like that.
Yeah, I think this is very much Apple technology with their mobile chips and the amazing things that they're able to do with them.
We can all pretend we're Taco Bravo.
I don't know why this is looking good there, Cheryl. I just realized I wasn't broadcasting any of this. This is Cheryl's moment to shine. There you go. You're going out on YouTube now, Cheryl.
Okay, then I'll get rid of it.
So I came across another thing interesting yesterday. There's an article called the Splinternet. I wanted to pronounce that correctly. The Splinternet in pictures. What the internet looks like to Russians right now. This is a Business Insider article. And they're just talking about all the restrictions that companies have put on Russia on the internet right now, and as well as Russian restrictions on services. And so throughout this article, it throws up visuals of what Russians would be experiencing if they were to go to those websites. And I'm waiting for some photos to load here, but they're basically a bunch of photos of what happens when you get to Facebook. What happens, yeah, like right here is there's a page if you try to get to Facebook without a VPN. An error message for a Russian IP address attempting to access Facebook. This is kind of interesting.
That's not what I get when I click on that link.
Oh, you would probably get to Facebook, right? Because you're in Mexico. But if you were in Russia...
Unofficial lineage brings Android TVs.
Oh, what are you talking about? Oh, you're looking at our document right now. Here's another one. If you go to Instagram...
Right. And I clicked on the link.
There's another one here that if you went to Instagram, this is what it would look like. You know, Russia has shut down Instagram and Facebook in Russia. I heard an interesting story this morning that was talking about Proton Mail. Hey, if you guys are familiar with Proton Mail, the secure email service, what they did is they sent out a message to their users, the Russian users, reminding them that payment methods are getting shut down in Russia and offering them different suggestions how to renew their account so that they didn't lose access to a highly secure communications platform simply for lack of payment.
You're breaking up.
Am I breaking up?
Yes.
Yeah, you had to.
Testing 1, 2.
Important words.
Oh, okay, good. Well, I record them, so you can go back for them later if you need to. No, am I still breaking up? Oh no, maybe I'm having internet problems.
It's the Russians.
It's the Russians. They're shutting me down.
They found you.
Anyway,
they know you're my son.
I found it very interesting. Oh, here one last one here. This is the BBC website. What it looks like if you, as of March 4th, if you try to go to it. All in Russia. I think Russia has shut this down too, because they're so afraid of what the BBC might be saying about the invasion, about the war in Ukraine. Splinternet in pictures. I like that terminology too, Splinternet. Because that's essentially what Russia's doing, is they're creating their own internet by shutting off the international sources.
Are we still going to be able to hack them?
It'll be interesting to see. We definitely need access to that network. This isn't a question that we've ever concerned ourselves with, because the nature of internet has always been one to be redundant. And the DARPA actually developed internet so that it could survive a nuclear war. The underlying protocol of the technology we use is self-healing. And so the only reason that they would be able to cut us off is because we haven't followed the philosophy of internet in making our interconnect relationship with them. And we've done the same thing to ourselves. We've created these interconnects, these international interconnects that are controlled by only one or two particular parties. You've got AT&T, you've got these large providers that make these deals between countries. Instead of dozen deals, we've always got like one big deal, like one. But the protocol itself was designed so that you'd have literally a web of different directions for data to flow. And in that case, it would be very difficult to shut down a geographical region. As you get smaller, it gets harder to shut it off. So, for example, if somebody wanted to stop an area like San Carlos from talking amongst each other, it'd be very difficult because it's just a web of interconnections. Whereas if they wanted to stop Guaymas from talking to the rest of Mexico, that would be much easier because there's only a couple of really big pipes connecting all of Guaymas to the rest of the internet. So the reason that there's been conflicts like in Syria, they've been able to just shut off their internet. And apparently that's what's going to happen in Russia here. Did you guys see the article about the spam websites that were set up? Maybe I can't remember. Did we talk about this last week? I read about this last week, that there's some websites that have been set up out there to reach millions of Russians. And so what they've got is like an email list, and you can go and you can send articles, you can send videos about what's happening in the Ukraine, and it gets sent out like spam email across. I don't know, maybe that's actually punishing Russia. I heard somebody today go, wait a second, if we're doing that, doesn't that make us the bad guys? Because we're just showering them in spam email. Maybe we're giving them incentive to be upset with the situation in the wrong way.
Hey, Scott, I have an unrelated question.
Please,
How do I change my network on my printer?
Ooh, it depends on your printer model.
It's a Canon 3000 from Mexico.
Okay. So does it have a display panel where you can
not that I no.
No? Okay, so then you're going to have to interact with it using the Canon software in your computer.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and you'd be setting it up as a Wi-Fi printer. You might even have to connect a USB cable to do it.
I don't have a USB cable.
Well, then that's good, because that means you got it set up on the first network without one. Unless you had me come over and do it. I don't remember setting it up.
No, I did it.
Yeah.
I just need to change it from WAN to fiber.
Okay. But out of curiosity, does your printer support a cable? An Ethernet cable?
I don't know.
Because in the end, keeping it close to those connections would make it the most flexible for you if you could do it by cable. Because if you could do it by cable, you could just run the cable to the other router whenever you wanted to switch networks. Physically, moving a cable would be much easier than having to get into the software, set it up on a new network. Okay. If you follow what I mean. I would check. Yeah, I would check and see if it supports an Ethernet cable. And to be fair, most modern printers do not. Most consumer modern printers now do not. So I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't. But if it did, that would be a real nice convenience for you to just be able to pop off the cable and plug it into another network.
Yeah, that would be convenient, but I don't think that that's going to be the case.
If not, then your option is you either access it through Canon software or you access it through the web page that's created by that printer, and you get it connected to another Wi-Fi network.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm happy to help you with it if it becomes an issue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. This is because I haven't decided if I'm going to renew WAN's service or not.
How's your 20 megabits of fiber optic there in the park?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah, very stable.
Mm-hmm. Very stable so far.
I wish I had it. It probably explains why I was breaking up earlier today. It's just because of the
Well,
stability.
I've been having, normally I do work off of Juan's network just because I've always done that. But, like when I'm watching TV or something, I need to figure out how to change my TV over to the fiber network. So.
Well, your TV, yeah, that would be a matter of getting in there and changing to the other Wi-Fi network.
Right. And that's an easy one. I mean, that's pretty easy, but the printer, I've been having issues.
Yes.
I was thinking about deleting it totally and then reinstalling it.
No, I would be careful to do that because it's already set up.
Okay.
And so you might actually make it more painful. I would start with it. You're connected to it, and there should be software. The Canon has a piece of software. I'm hoping it's the same one for your model. It's the IJ, and it might even have a different name on the Macintosh because we're talking about the Macintosh, but Inkjet network tool is what I use under Windows.
Okay.
And I wonder if I've got the one under, let me see if it's the same thing under my Macintosh. Oh yeah, it's Canon IJ network tool.
Okay. Canon IJ network tool. Okay.
Yeah, IJ for Inkjet. And it should be able to find your printer out there on the network, and then you should be able to get in and make changes to it.
Okay, Canon IJ, and then what was after that?
Network tool is the one that I use for my Canon. Mine are 200 series. You said yours is a I'm sorry, mine's a 2000 series, and you said yours is a 3000. So I'm just making assumptions that they have a similar program for that model.
Well, it gives me a place to start. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else brought any topics? Because I'm going to run down my list of news if you guys don't have questions or topics you'd like to share. What do we got?
Something to mention.
Sure, Chester. Go right ahead.
I got an email from Cox this week, and that's my internet provider.
Yeah.
And for the same cost, they've doubled the broadband capacity. So I'm now up to 420.
Oh, you're just bragging. You don't have a question. You're just making fun of the rest of us.
I don't know why I need G5,
Right. That can't possibly be symmetric. Is that 400 up and down?
I don't know what you mean. No, that's only 400 down, not up. I didn't check the up.
Okay.
I don't do much up anyway.
Well, and that's the same. That's how you're supposed to get internet services as well. That's the way it's supposed to work. Is they upgrade their equipments. That should be part of their costs. Their what's it called? Not accrued, amortized costs. And then they offer you more because there is more at the same price because it doesn't cost them any more than they're already budgeting for. That's the way good internet providers are supposed to behave.
It's different than some other emails I've gotten from, let's see, from Netflix, from Amazon, and from DirecTV. They're all raising their prices this month.
Yeah, I saw that. There's also, I didn't get it into my lineup, but apparently they're playing with this pay for outside your household password usage. Right?
Well, that's contemplated. I don't think they've adopted it yet, but they plan to.
Well, I read an article where at least there was some people that were getting it as like an A/B testing to see how their behavior would be. That there was a slew, some district of Netflix. I don't even know how whether they do it by age or they do it by geographic location, but they picked some area and just put it forward to see how the people would respond, some demographic to see how they would respond to it.
Test. They were testing it out.
Yeah. So, all of you out there that are sharing passwords on Netflix, I think you should have a dramatic response and recoil, because I'm one of those that doesn't pay for Netflix. Somebody gives me an account, and I don't want it to cost them any more money. So, everybody has to get out, threaten not to use Netflix so you can save my access to it. No, I'm sorry, Chester. Go ahead.
Well, I think the charge for the non-household participant is something like $2 a month, so it's not really prohibitive.
Right.
It's just one more squeeze for money, but that's still insignificant compared to DirecTV.
Well, and you said it right. The squeeze for money is the thing that's happening right now. This is the new business model with these subscription services, is to find out how much you will tolerate. They've just recently raised Prime prices for people, and they gave a whole slew of ways that you could get a discount, which essentially meant that you would, for another year, you'd pay what you paid last year, right? Because if you didn't take advantage of the discount, then you're using the new pricing, and it's become fairly expensive. But at the same time, they've got better movie content than they've had before. People are using their music. They're using Alexa speakers. All last year, I was telling people Google's starting to charge for storage, but your Prime account allows you to store all your photos, unlimited photos. And I'm still into it. Unlimited photos for free. They don't change the quality. Say that again, Chester.
I still find, even though the price for Prime is up, the delivery, I've gotten to the point where I don't even shop locally. I just go on there and sometimes it comes the same day that I order it.
I think it's awesome when that happens, but what's happening with much more frequency is that you're just being asked to kind of tolerate it might be a day late. It might take slightly longer, or what you're looking for you can't find with next day delivery. And this is kind of a bit of I feel like there's a lot of social engineering that's going on right now, just to get the reactions of people, see what they would tolerate, find what the prices are that people can endure. And this thing where, it can't be here until Wednesday, and then it shows up on Tuesday, which I find frustrating, because I mean, like, in one way they're saying, hey, look what we did. We got it to you sooner than we thought we could. But the other side of that is, hey, I can't rely on when you're going to deliver it. What if I wasn't able to be available when you started showing up today instead of tomorrow? Maybe we got porch pirates in my neighborhood and they're going to grab that package. These kinds of things are really, they're put out there just like the price fluctuation. They put it out into a small demographic to see what that demographic would do with that manipulation. The Prime, I think, is the best example right now, because they keep adding services to it and they keep inching up the price. And the 2-day delivery is not what you're really paying for anymore. It's all this other stuff, and you get yourself deep enough into it, there's a price at which you have to seriously contemplate taking all that, cutting yourself off from all that, because you just can't endure that price anymore. I don't know. I think it's a slippery slope with a lot of this. We have to have an idea of what's considered I'm stumbling around because I don't know what's an appropriate business model for these kinds of things. I know that Amazon started not knowing what they were going to charge for Prime, And so really it's the behaviors of us all that are determining what we'll pay for it. Chester, you're muted there. I can't hear you.
For me, it's just the free postage. I'm not that anxious to get it the next day or today.
Well, you know, I feel guilty not shopping locally, but an example is there's a small item that I need from Walmart, and I go to Walmart and they don't have it. And I get on the internet and here Amazon can deliver it this afternoon. You know, it's hard to beat that business model, and the prices are better. But I still feel guilty.
Well,
Chester, some people would dispute that shopping at Walmart is locally. It's just it's just a way of looking at it.
Well, and you know what? Some people would dispute that they didn't have it. You probably just didn't find it because they got no one to help you find it in the shop. It's probably there on a shelf underneath something, but you've got to go find somebody to help you find it. Right?
A better example would be Ace Hardware, and I need a piece of hardware. And so I go to Ace Hardware, and they've got this nice guy that comes up and says, well, can I help you? Yeah, but they don't have it. And if they do have it, it's twice the price of Amazon.
Right. Right. And many times by the time I'm buying something, I've already done the research on what I want. Amazon's just the next step. It's right there. I found it. But why would I even look at Walmart? Why would I go into a shop and buy it when I can just press this button and it'll show up in a couple of days? Yeah. Well,
but I'm renewing anyway.
The price increases that we're seeing throughout the tech sector are not related to inflation. So just keep that in mind. As they're raising these prices, they were going to do that regardless of what our inflation's doing right now. So your expenses are going in two different, I mean, they're expanding here and here. They're just becoming bigger because of two different effects. What else do we got on today's agenda? Is anybody out there want to put forth a topic?
You have a topic on your list about what to do when you're interviewed by a policeman.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think we talked about that.
We haven't. That's actually the title of an article that doesn't go into great depth about what to do because it openly admits you're kind of at the mercy of the traffic stop. But your rights, it will tell you what your rights are and what to expect. And you can ask to not be filmed, not to have your picture taken. They can ignore it. Depending on what state, you may not be ignoring it might be legal and just doing it. But what this article is really talking about is something that we had talked about a while back, these databases that have been built off of social networks. And you can send a picture now to one of these databases, and it will send you back full profiles of people. And law enforcement have been casually using these to do investigations. And so this can go really sideways very quickly because what is the concern? And there isn't a big uptick in this yet, but the concern is that in fact what spawned this was a podcast on police activities. There's a podcast out there, and you have to forgive me, I haven't read this since last week, but there's a podcast out there dedicated to police officers to help them enhance their investigative tools and their procedures, to help them understand constitutional rights, I've never listened to the podcast, but the podcast that I had a guest on that was talking about Clearview ID. And that's one of these databases. This is the one that's been in the news most recently, like in the last year, where you can take a picture of someone out on the street and feed that picture into the database and fairly accurately pull up who that is and all the information across their social media platforms. And from a law enforcement perspective, you can immediately take that information and stick it into any law enforcement databases to see if this person is wanted. And you can do all that from a picture. And what this podcast was talking about was how you can creatively do that at a traffic stop. So you pull over a car and you get the opportunity to pull out your smartphone. A police officer trying to do extensive investigations might pull out his personal smartphone and snap a quick picture of you and send it into this database that he has bought monthly access to because he's trying to be a good cop and use whatever tools are available to him. And then this database can shoot back information to him that he can check in the law enforcement databases to see if he should be concerned about this person. And I think you can see immediately where this can be a problem, because we've talked about artificial intelligence, facial recognition concerns. There were the last point before working our way over to the other meat code.
Last time I flew into LA.
Yes, Fred.
I went to customs and all I did was look at a camera and I was done with customs. That was it.
They didn't even look at your passport.
Didn't even look at my passport, didn't look at anything. Just
Wow.
my picture.
Well, I mean, and to be fair, you are an old white man, so yeah, that would be very accurate.
I think a white man's image has more contrast than a lot of other complexions.
Yeah. You know, that's all algorithm problems right there. That's I don't think if we know that, then we should be writing the algorithm to understand that. Skin. Anyway, that's not really here nor there. I don't know if you remember the sci-fi movie. What was it called? Galactica. Yeah, I think that's what it was called. Galaga. No, Galactica, I think is what it was called. Had Ethan Hawke in it, if I remember correctly. And they were living in this future where DNA was known everywhere. You were part of a DNA database, and your chances for success were already determined from the moment you were conceived. And well-off families had the opportunity to modify your DNA so that you would exhibit the traits that would get you a better job when you were born and grow up. It would extract all the disease possibilities, and for the right price, you could be conceived to have better mental capacities, better health capacities, and these people would have better lives compared to natural birth people. They would have more opportunities immediately. They would pay lower insurance rates. They would have more opportunities at work simply because of their DNA. And the part where this relates to what we're talking about is that the police would do investigations with vacuum cleaners. They would go into a crime scene and they would vacuum up all the DNA that was distributed around the crime scene so that they could stick it into their machine and find if anyone was at this crime scene that wasn't supposed to be there, because they could keep track of all the DNA of all the people that legitimately should be at that scene, and then they would have a list of the people that weren't supposed to be there. I'm getting fingered by two women telling me that I have got to get off of this meat and get over to the other one. So let me open up the next meat so that we can start connecting to it. I apologize if I'm finding myself too entertaining. The meat is opening as we speak. We are. How many? Call is about to end. We're on the 60-second countdown. I'm going to close this meat and open the other one. Testing, testing, testing. Admit all. Everybody's here ready to go. So I'm kind of feeling like this is very similar to that kind of investigation. This isn't.
That's my Quarka.
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 Oh, I've seen those. Australia.
Yeah, Southwest.
Yeah, little tiny dudes.
How come he only has one eye?
He's winking at you.
Yeah, there you go. He's not my type.
What kind? It looks like he might be a rodent.
No, it's a native marsupial.
A marsupial.
In fact, I saw a photo the other day of a Quarka with its baby sticking his head out of the pouch.
And it's called a quokka?
Quarrrka.
Does it come from Australia?
Yeah, Southwest Australia. I mean, it's Dutch for rat nest.
Yeah.
Well, I know in Perth, out of Perth, there's an island called Rat Island.
That's it.
I thought it was because it had lots of rats, but apparently they have
No, it's
gone away.
they have Quarkas and
Now, the Dutch Quarkas were rats.
and there is a colony of them on the mainland now that's been introduced, but people they're so friendly. I mean, they have no fear of people, and so people were taking selfies like if I was taking this selfie now, and feeding them and things like that. So they made a law that you can't set yourself up for a selfie or feed them now. You can take their picture though.
You know, you'd think they would have learned their lesson from the fox and the rabbits, but guess not. And cats. I think cats are.
Well, they're probably keeping cats off the island, you know, because it's a small island.
Hey, I just wanted
them to the mainland is kind of a worry. Sorry, Scott. Go ahead.
No worries. I just want to interject. The name of the movie I was talking about is Gattaca. It's Gattaca, a 1997 movie with Ethan Hawke, Uma Thurman, and it's a really interesting perspective. It came out when we had successfully done the genome. I mapped the genome project. So DNA was in the minds of all these sci-fi writers at this time, and that's the comparison to me is very valid. Of these investigators going into a crime scene with a vacuum cleaner, just sucking everything up and sorting out who belongs and who doesn't. Very similar to the traffic stop, where a cop can take a picture of you and send it off, just wondering if you might have anything else out there, anything harder than what you're saying, or if you've got a different identity out there. It feels very similar to me, but I would recommend that movie. I think it's great. It reads, a genetically inferior man assumes the identity of a superior one in order to pursue his passion, his work. The real premise of this movie is this guy that doesn't have the DNA to stack up is masquerading as someone that does. I'm going to put that on my recommendations list. Is there any other topics that people have other than my lineup of news stories? Happy to talk about. We went through the deep fakes in the Splinternet. We're talking about the how to scan your facial. Boy, it's going to be really weird in the future, isn't it? When like all we have to do is allow our law enforcement to use those tools. And the cop is going to come up with his body cam on, right? Because we're going to insist the body cams are on 24/7 because of the problems, the abuses that we've had from law enforcement. Well, maybe not us. I'm looking out across our faces, and I know we haven't been suffering abuses from the police, but there's abuses that have been suffered out there, and so it's become very popular to insist that your law enforcement have body cams on, so people later in the court can see what happened and make their own decisions, their own opinion of what went down, transpired. So that camera is going to be on, and then all we've done is we've clicked on an option saying they can use this kind of software, and now that body cam footage is immediately sent into this database, scouring for all your personal information that's out there on social networks, identifying who you are, seeing what you've done. This is Snowden's concern, is that these tools that they were using for international espionage can be used in just your regular controlling people, law enforcement situations. So we did that. Hey, did we talk about this last week? I thought this is a great topic for Computer Club people, that shortwave is back for the BBC. Because they can't get into Russia to share the true stories of what's happening with Ukraine, they cranked up their shortwave broadcasts. Apparently, they stopped doing shortwave broadcasts back in, I think it was 2014. They just decided that it was no longer something that needed to be done, which I think is amazing, because they cranked up shortwave broadcasts shortly after World War II, and they had been broadcasting, the BBC had been broadcasting news out on shortwave for the last 80 years, or close to 80 years, and finally decided it was no longer a necessity. And this war with Ukraine and Russia shutting off all the media from the outside world made it important for them to turn it back on. So now, if you're a shortwave enthusiast, you can go back to listening to the BBC on your shortwave. And now anyone in Russia that is a hobbyist will have access to their broadcasts.
I would imagine there's plenty that are thinking about that in Russia, because they know they're not getting the truth.
What I'm hopeful that we will see some independent networks of shortwave broadcasters in Russia, but I'm also very, very hopeful that they will start, like people like myself, if I think about how I might behave in that situation where they're trying to block information, and I know that me and my neighbor and his neighbor and their neighbor could be putting together an independent network to share information that wouldn't be controllable, that wouldn't be centralized, because those technologies already exist, and it's just a matter of implementing them. And the longer this goes on, this information blackout for Russia, the more I think people of my nature will start thinking about ways to get information to pass around, at least inside the country, that is safe and secure and accurate. This could be, I think, just like Putin wasn't expecting to all of a sudden have the whole world against him, and he wasn't expecting to see Europe as united as, I mean, it's like he's done amazing things for European politics. They've never been more united. Thank you, Putin, right? It's like, if there's a silver lining around here, these things are silver linings. He might also bring in this age of decentralized communication out of necessity for what he's putting his country through. And that can't be anything but a benefit to all of us, that we are able to, we truly do use this technology in a way that it can't be shut down. The shutting down of a country's internet is only a great idea when it's not your country, when it's not your point of view being shut down. I personally would rather have technology that's very difficult to shut down. It's amazing that the internet spawns out of that kind of thinking, that the last thing that this should do is get shut down. I called it self-healing earlier, and that has to do with just the protocols that are used are intended to broadcast in a variety of different directions and accumulate at an endpoint from a variety of different directions and reassemble in order so that it can be presented. It's the entire concept of packet delivery technology that the internet is founded on is thought up with this idea that a bomb could go off in the middle of your network and information would find its way around that hole to the other side. What else do I have on my news list? If nobody's going to bring up another topic or a thought on what I'm rambling about.
But you know, there's the Ukraine war is unusual in some respects. And in the previous Russian and Putin invasions of different situations, they have not had the information that is being generated in Ukraine now by the foreign news services and television and cameras, and it's quite unique. And that is one of the things that's really hurting Russia.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that, I mean, you're absolutely right. I'm still not convinced that they can win a military war, but they're definitely winning a social media war right now because the whole world's watching what's going on. Putin can't deny it. And so it's really our relationships with Putin that's making it difficult to intervene. I think most Americans feel like there should be some kind of intervention because we don't, well, tongue in cheek, I think we want to be the only bully on the block. We can't handle this country being bullied by Russia. Right? It's we don't like bullies, but we do allow ourselves to be bullies at times.
Can I digress for a second?
Please get me off of this because I'll get too political.
Okay. Well, you were talking about shortwave. If you look at what they're producing today, not many broadcast radios will do shortwave anymore. Back in the 20s, 30s, 40s, almost everything came out had shortwave bands, shortwave and longwave bands. But the radios nowadays don't.
Right.
So, you know, unless you get a special radio, you're just SOL.
Hobbyists, absolutely. And that's kind of like, I would be hopeful that that's what would spur in Russia as they get this information blackout, this censored. Russia's made that law that if you are presenting fake news is any news that casts the Ukraine situation as anything but in a positive light for Russia. They're saving Ukraine. If you cast it in the light of war, then you may be facing 15 years in jail. And that's why so many of Russian media outlets have shut down and resigned, is because they don't want to face those penalties for telling the truth.
Plus you have the situation where if you tell a lie enough times, it becomes the truth.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Chester. I mean, that's what they're hoping for, right? Is you can't tell your truth. Yeah, the state is able to tell their truth, but you're not able to tell your truth without facing jail time. And I think this would spawn a movement of hobbyists that are into shortwave because they've run out of safe ways to share real information with each other. And so they would regress back to older technology that can't be controlled. That is one of the amazing things about shortwave is that there is no way to centrally control it or shut it off. If you've got the device, then you can intercept those broadcasts and nobody can stop you.
Well, I wonder how many radio hams there are in Russia that are sharing information.
Yeah, and I wonder how quickly that number is going to grow. And then the other thing that I think about is we went through a period of time back in the late 90s where we were doing radio networks. We were using ham radios to share data connections. And I think that would be the next thing that you would see. You'd see a spurn of ham enthusiasts in their country, and then they would start running things like Usenet, where they were able to pass information, emails, and discussion groups through ham signals. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't like projecting that this is going to go on for long enough that all this can be sorted out. But BBC has turned on shortwave broadcasts, and that's the first step in all this. Russia's cutting themselves off and isolating themselves from the rest of the internet, the global internet, and BBC has turned on shortwave to get past that blockage. So who knows what's going to happen next? We've gone through quite a few topics here. There are two topics here that I also thought you guys would find interesting. One is there's an article here about Amazon and how they're behaving like cable companies if you want to cancel your Prime. To cancel, you go through an online interview, and it does precisely what you've become accustomed to from a CoxNet kind of standpoint, or a cable company in Alaska. We've got GCI. You call up and you try and cancel, and they ask you why, and then they offer you a better deal, and if you don't take it, they offer you an even better deal, and they make it just very uncomfortable for you to try and shut down to cancel your. And apparently Amazon has been doing this online. If you go to cancel your Prime, you'll get into an interview that will ask you particular questions about Prime, and it will kind of social engineer you into a certain way of thinking that has dropped cancellations by 14%. So it's an interesting article to read. It's a very good example of how reading how people are behaving and engineering to that behavior is very effective. And then the other article I've got on here, and maybe you guys aren't interested. I find this interesting. If you have a Fire TV stick, I have never been a proponent of the original stick, what they call the light version now, or the international version. I find the performance on it is subpar, and the experience isn't ideal. If you want to know what I think the ideal equipment is from Amazon, it's the 4K stick. It's been the same kind of equipment for the last 2 years. And what I mean by performative, superior experience is when you hit a button, things move on your screen. There's no question that you're doing something with the remote. And the previous version, pardon me, the previous version, the one that's referred to as light or international, it was a kind of hurry up and wait experience where you would hit the button at times and you would just wait to see it do something on the screen, like just moving around the screen. I'm moving down, down, down. Now it's moving down, down, down. Whereas the 4K, very performative. You hit the down button, you see it go down on the screen. So if you're curious what I think, if you're looking at Fire Stick technology, I would ignore the light international version. I go right for the 4K or whatever their latest derivative of the 4K is. Consequently, that device, that 4K, you can find on sale most times of the year for about $29, $30. It's like $29.95. So it's a great price for it as well. So all that being said, that's all my disclaimers for this article that talks about being able to put a copy of lineage on your old Fire Stick, if it's a 3rd generation, the light that I was describing, or the international version, this might be an interesting way to use this stick. I know that just from my recommendation, I know of a few people, including my folks and a couple of customers, that have just stopped messing around with the old Fire Sticks and have gotten into the 4K sticks because they are so much more performative. It's a much more desirable experience. But they've got these older sticks lying around, and this might be a fun thing to try this software out for. I don't have one of these older sticks, but I might be trying it out on one of Mom's older sticks when I get up to Alaska. When I said lineage, that is an Android derivative intended for replacing a phone operating system, and now they have a version to replace the Fire Stick software with the Android TV software, giving you access to the Google Play Store on this Amazon Fire Stick hardware. So this I think might be a really interesting way to repurpose some of this older equipment. So if that sounds like I'm the kind of person that's going to be playing around with this, there are folks out there in our group that are the kind of people that might play around with this. Take a look at this article. You might find that this is a great way to use your old. And if you can get Android TV 11, I guess is the version. So the headline is here, Lineage 18.1 brings Android TV 11 to 3rd generation Amazon Fire TV sticks. If you've listened to my advice, you may have one of these sticks sitting in a drawer because you upgraded. And this might be a great way to get Android TV into your house without having to buy a new device. We'll see. I will probably in a couple of months I'll be playing with one. I think we've reached the end of. Oh, I guess I got one more article on this list that I'll mention just so I can take it off the list. A few weeks back, top Wikipedia editor in Belarus was arrested. I do not have any follow-up. It's just still on our list. If anybody knows any better, this is significant to all of us that live on the internet because Wikipedia has become our encyclopedia of choice. And if you've forgotten or aren't aware, Wikipedia is edited by volunteers. And most sections in Wikipedia are accurate because the volunteer has a vested interest in making it as accurate as possible. That's their passion. That's the thing that they're the expert in. So they've taken a page of the encyclopedia and made it their responsibility to make that as informative and accurate as possible. So this one person was responsible for large sections of Russian information and Belarusian information on Wikipedia, and now they're behind bars. So it is the equivalent of Wikipedia going dark for those areas. No one else was doing this work except for this one person. And now he's sitting in jail under their 15-year statutory misinformation law that they have created.
You mentioned earlier in the program that this was happening in both Russia and Ukraine, that they are monitoring and prohibiting bad information that's not in their favor. But I believe that same thing happened in World War II with the United States.
Yes, Chester, I think that's a good point. This is just the modern version of propaganda wars. And that brings me to the list of my news stories for today. And since we're cycling down, maybe this is a good time to talk about any recommendations people have. If you've watched something, read something. Oh, sure, Fred, go ahead.
Okay, I just got a thing on my phone. Jan Potsky, or the press secretary.
Oh, yes.
Has COVID.
Oh, great.
Yeah. And she's the one that goes with Biden all the time. So
So,
And
yeah.
who's going overseas? Yeah, 2 days.
Wow.
She's going to have to go virtually.
What happened to her?
She's got COVID
She's got
now.
COVID.
Oh,
She tested positive.
We haven't really talked much about COVID today. I have been noticing, though, that there's an uptick in infections throughout Europe, and there's a new variant that they're paying attention to. And I read an article.
Not enough attention.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch any of that.
I just said I don't think they're giving enough attention to that yet.
Mom, I'm sorry, I still didn't understand what you said.
Oh, sorry. I'm concerned that they're not giving enough attention to that new variant right now. I think they're hoping it's less than never mind. I don't know what I'm talking about right now.
Well, I think you do, because I think that's
it's less than Omicron.
That's right. I think that we're all living on dreams and prayers right now. They're showing us what we want to see because we're so sick of seeing COVID stuff that there isn't enough information to determine whether it's going to be as bad as Omicron. And until there is, I don't think they're going to be telling us much about it. But the uptick is what's concerning.
Has anyone?
The other thing that I read about COVID this last week, oh my gosh, it just flew my mind. It'll come back. It'll come back. Please, someone else continue. There was a point.
Has anyone gone for a second booster? Have you got any?
Thank you,
Terry
Mom.
and I need one before we fly back to Anchorage.
You're like reading my mind, because this was the other article that I read, was talking about how the booster is proving to be effective at preventing infection for up to 3 to 4 months, no more. That after 3 or 4 months, its effectiveness is dropping dramatically. And so what I got from this is now they're doing studies on whether they should be recommending quarterly or three times a year boosters, as opposed to 6-month or 12-month boosters. Has anyone done a second booster?
I would question.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
I have a couple of points, but the one is what people are calling booster. I have heard that some people are getting a lesser dose or not the same as the first shot in their booster. And as far as I know, the third and fourth shots that I've had are the same as the first two. The same amount of Pfizer, the same, what do you call it? Not weight, but percentage of whatever their, same formula, the same formula as the original vaccine. So all 4 of the shots that I've had are the same. There's not one that is a lesser dosage or a lesser strength as a booster. So that's something I don't know.
Well, I don't hear them calling for people to take boosters yet, but then they'll say if you're old and have a problem, you should. But nowhere around here in Arizona, anyway, are they offering that yet.
Well, I got my booster in Mexico, and it was very specifically a different shot than what the first 2 were. My first 2 were Pfizer, and I think my third one was Moderna. But no, I'm sorry, it was AstraZeneca, I think. But at this point, in all the research that I've done, I was totally okay with that. I've seen health officials proclaiming that it would probably give better immunity to use a different vaccine as a booster. And I've heard nothing negative about. And I guess it's all relative. I mean, the real negative is you get really sick, and so getting boosted in general seems to be the final. But I didn't have any concerns about the idea of getting a different. And I think if they come out and say, the best way to protect ourselves is taking a booster every 4 months, then I'm probably going to be in that line too, as long as it's not hard to do.
I will.
Oh, yes. It sounds like a terrible way to die. I don't want to.
Well, I think now what before we were concerned about spreading it. Now it's too late for that. And then we were concerned about people that were not vaccinated dying. And now we have vaccinations, so we're not worried about that. And then we're worried about immunocompromised people and older people for health reasons couldn't get vaccinated. We're worried about them not getting. Well, now I think the thing we're worried about is if we can't stop it in its tracks, at least occasionally, it's going to remutate, and they're not sure what that new mutation will be. And who knows? Maybe the new mutation will be the vaccines we have won't have any effect on it.
That doesn't seem to have as strong an effect on the Omicron as it did the Delta.
You mean that people are still getting sick from Omicron even though they've gotten vaccinated?
Yeah, there's breakthroughs, sure. It's just the Omicron, I guess, isn't as dangerous, at least to young people.
Right.
I would dispute that it's not as dangerous because we still don't know what long COVID is going to look like. And for an older person, maybe those aren't a concern, but for the younger people, it could be a big concern. So a young person gets it and maybe they're not too sick, but down the road, what is it going to show up as? What is the long COVID and how is it going to affect their lives?
Good point.
Really
yeah,
good point.
Really is. So we just don't know. This is all new territory for us, for this generation. It's like going back and looking at what happened with the Spanish flu. We keep wanting to taper out of this, and then things happen that make you wonder where we're going next with it. Well, what we're not doing next is we're not doing in-person meetings, at least not till I get back from Alaska. And I have already done a recommendation for a movie, that Gattaca. I would recommend it. It's great sci-fi. It's brainy sci-fi. I like it.
I watched a movie the other night. Sam Elliott. We've been watching 1883, and then I happened to see another one with Sam Elliott in it. I believe it was called The Hero. Yeah. And it was about an aging actor who had played one major thing in his life, and he was the hero in a Western movie. I would say that it was probably the biggest waste of time that I've ever done. And I love Sam Elliott.
Carol, don't say anything to my husband about that.
Wait, so this is an anti-recommendation. This is stay away from this movie.
It is a negative, yes. It is a 2 thumbs down. I thought afterwards, what the heck did I just watch? Like it just was, yeah, it wasn't his best. And I don't like seeing him quite so old, but, as it is. But yeah, it was very shallow and not my best.
And he had really good actors in it. So he did get some recognition for that. But no awards, I don't think.
No. Yeah, and it was about him receiving an award. But yeah. for the character. Yeah. Anyways, that's my non-recommendation. But I did watch another one the same night that I think was good, but I can't remember what it was. So I'll have to go back and look at my Amazon and see what I was watching.
Yeah, save it for next week. I'm sorry to say, I got to cut this short. I've got work immediately after this, and I have to run off. Is there any last bits here that we need to share? Anything that can't keep till next week? This is the moment. Otherwise, I do need to bring this meeting to a close. Thank you for being here with us on Tuesday, every Tuesday at 10, at least for the foreseeable future. You're always happy to have you guys join me. That's always a great conversation. You're always welcome. Please bring your topics. Please feel free to edit our document. I send out a document that has some of the thoughts I'm having for our next meeting, and you continue to have access to that document even after our meeting. So if you're looking for any of the stuff we talked about, you can find it in the document linked in your email. Or again, I put it all on the website. So if you go to sccclub.org, you can find what we talked about last week right there. But I've got to go. So you guys have an awesome week. Scott Stimson again saying tech on until next Tuesday.
Tech on.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Adios.
Adios.
Bye, guys. Adios. See you, Jim. Bye. And that was it. As I just mentioned, I got to get out of here. I can't stick around or screw around any longer. So I'm off to work. Yay, there's work. If you like what we're doing, check out sccclub.org. If you are looking for computer help, check out internationalcs.net. You can contact me, Scott, at either domain, and I can reach through the internet and give you a hand. No matter where you are, I'm sure I can help you with some solutions. Until next Tuesday, tech on.